Okay, it is about 8:32 p.m. Central Standard Time. Today is Wednesday, September the 15th, and welcome to week number 6, the final lecture for this course and my final lecture for this term. And today is drugs and crime. And I hope that you have learned quite a bit over these last 5 weeks about drugs and crime and things that could be beneficial to help you in your future as a criminal justice professional. So tonight, I'm going to take the time to share the information for the final week, which you should be aware that the course actually ends Friday, 2 days from now. So let's take a look at the student preview. And here it is. Let's take a look at messages. Of course, you can see the messages that I've sent out to each of you, including the last one, which was Sunday, and that was the PowerPoints for this week and other weeks. Let's take a look at the grade book. And you can see that for this week, we're going to deal with the discussion post, methadone clinics. Of course, the initial post was due yesterday. That is the 14th. And that the reply post is due Friday. In fact, everything is due Friday. Then your written assignment is also due Friday. Your final exam, which is comprehensive for the quizzes that you've been taking already every week, will prepare you for this. If you've done well with them, you should do well with this. And then your live classroom lecture phrase is due as well. So let's look at the discussion post. So the topic is methadone clinics, and you're going to use the facts pattern that says methadone clinics have been established in many cities to serve people with opioid addiction. And so in your first post, you're going to conduct research about the pros and cons of methadone to opioid addicts. And you're going to argue one side for the initial post regarding whether the methadone clinics are an appropriate option. Be sure to discuss community or support or disfavor from the community regarding methadone clinics and law enforcement concerns, and support your comments with examples. Reply post, respond to a student who has a contrary one. If you do include information, I don't require citations in the body, but they're very helpful as well. Okay, so that's it for the discussion post. The assignment, written assignment. Let's take a look at that. Diversion, treatment, and rehabilitation strategies. Okay, and you're going to talk about those. We have been talking about some diversion tactics, such as directing the person in a new direction. We've talked about deflection. I provided you with some information, and then in the module there was some in your text, and we discussed them in the lecture. Treatment that can help, and rehabilitation strategies. Be sure that Dave's circumstances that are included, very important. Summarize the types of treatment programs available for addiction. Explain what type of treatment program you could recommend for Dave that would be beneficial. Locate a current example for each strategy below, and provide an explanation of how the strategy will treat addiction and reduce recidivism. Diversion strategy, treatment strategy, and rehabilitation strategy. Determine whether Dave would benefit from each of the current examples: diversion, treatment, or rehabilitation. Excuse me. Identify any additional resources that might help regarding Dave's mental health and his addiction. It says provide at least one credible source as APA. We've had discussions about that. You know what my position is. The more references or citations in the body, the better your paper will be. Make sure that you satisfy the 2-page minimum requirement. It is okay to go beyond 3 pages, but you're going to lose points if you go under 2 pages. Double space, people. Double space, not single space. And cover page. Make sure you have a cover page as well as a reference page as well. And it must be in Microsoft Word. If you submit it in PDF or any other form, it will not be graded and you will get a 0. Okay. So now let's take a look at the rubric that kind of lays out the whole thing. Well, better yet, let's look at the rubric from the perspective. Let's get out of the student preview. Close that out. Let's come back to the assignment. And let's look at the rubric again. You know where I encourage you to end up, and that is mastery. So dealing with the treatment programs, exemplary summary of the programs with thorough details on what type of treatment you would recommend for Dave. Provide support for it with citations in the body. The diversion strategy. Locate an example of a diversion strategy with thorough explanation of how it will treat addiction and reduce recidivism. A treatment strategy. Okay, locate a current example of a treatment strategy. You'll find that in the lecture and the readings this week and the PowerPoints that I sent you. Finally, the rehabilitation strategy with thorough explanation of how it will treat and reduce recidivism. The benefits to Dave. Provide credible sources. We've already been talking about that. Citations in the body and references at the end. And then make sure it's a 2 to 3 page paper. 2 to 3 page paper. And that's it. Okay. And so this is due by Friday. Okay. So now let's take a look at the calendar for the last time. Look at the month view and you will see that this is where we are for your live lecture. If you clicked on this, it will tell you the live lecture, and the link is there also, which is where I am right now. And then it tells you that everything else is due day after tomorrow. The written assignments, the discussions, as well as the exam. Your initial postal course was due yesterday. Okay, so that's it. Not the 18th, not the 19th or 20th. Okay. And finally, let's look at the announcement for the week 6. Drug-related criminal activities, treatment and rehabilitation strategies. We've been talking about these quite a bit in this course. Read chapter 10 of the text and the PowerPoints that I gave you and complete the activities. Treatment challenges related to opioid addiction and drug treatment and rehabilitation programs. And of course, the lecture is today at 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Then again, the discussion assignment methadone clinics. Initial post, as I said earlier, was due yesterday on Tuesday, the 14th by 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time, and reply post due by Friday. Finally, the written assignment, diversion, treatment, and rehabilitation strategies, and the final exam, which of course is timed, as you should know already from the quiz. All written assignments will be due again finally by Friday, September 17th. And then a reminder that the quarter ends at 11:59 p.m. Friday the 17th. Please complete the evaluations you received in your emails. I'm reminding you to finish strong, and you know about my motto, adversity is a springboard to success. There is an announcement that provides that to you, so you'll learn about that. It's not a graded assignment, but it's something that can help you. It's right down here in case you don't remember it. It's right down here at the bottom there. Okay. One last time, at this juncture, the best way to reach me is by calling me or texting me at this number any time of the day except the 25th hour. Okay. Okay, let's get back to the content. Okay, we're there. Okay, let's look at the module itself. Again, reminding you that you have the final exam, live classroom recording, all that's due Friday. So let's take a look at these two areas before we adjourn for tonight as well as for the course. So as you know, opioid addiction is, to use the first sentence, powerful and life-consuming. You know that it affects your families, it affects those individuals and their relationship with others. It puts people in a state where they feel like their life has basically ended, or I like to characterize it as the walking dead, and they're not able to communicate and fit into society very well. And so treatment options have to include some social support from those seeking help from overcoming the opioid addiction. And it also leaves you with some serious, severe psychological effects, and the body develops a high tolerance for the drug. So what happens is people increase their doses to get the effect, and what happened is that if they do that, they oftentimes OD. People also who discontinue the drug, they have the issue of withdrawals and the symptoms that include muscle and bone pain, insomnia, diarrhea, vomiting, cold flashes, and sweating. So you go through a lot of challenges. Medications such as ibuprofen and methadone, the latter of the two is one that is very controversial, but it is used, and it is also a drug, as we like to say. It's substituting opioid for methadone, and there are clinics throughout the municipalities and areas, so that addicts can obtain the methadone. But remember one thing about methadone: it can be detected in a drug screening test and does not eliminate the possibility of using other opioids. So, excuse me, it may help you to deal with heroin and something of that nature, but it might not help you with others. Another issue that I like to bring to the attention of people concerning my concerns about methadone is that it basically, uh, as I say, delays uh, the need for hard work. In other words, for kicking the habit. I was talking to someone today, or my wife and I both were talking to someone today about one of their kids who he finds himself caught up in dealing with these types of situations because of the people that he hangs with, that he associates with. And so uh, methadone um, will delay abusing opioids, but the commitment to recovery is the most important thing. And people, because of the methadone, they begin to think, well, I'm okay. I'm not going to try to do anything beyond that, which is a major, 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 major mistake. There is a need for intensive counseling, meetings, getting a sponsor, and building support um, need to take place. And when you deal with methadone, you feel like you don't need those things. And people relapse very quickly. As it says here, over 70% relapse after using methadone. So there's a video here that I'm not going to take time. It's 2 hours almost, chasing heroin. Remember, like the one that you did last week. And you can take a look at that video, and it will tell you some of the challenges that relate to opioid addiction, in addition to what we've talked about so far. Very important for you to understand something. Opioid addiction is extremely devastating to the life and quality of life for individuals and their families. And again, people don't want to take time to deal with those kinds of people, um, because they will drag them down with them. And the way to describe many opioid addicted people is self-destructive, destroy themselves and anything in their past. Not bad people now. Keep in mind that these individuals are hooked on this, and they will do anything and everything to get to that drug, including, unfortunately, hurting and killing some people. But stealing, robbery, crimes against property um, are common in those situations for individuals who commit burglaries and strong arm robberies, uh, and just basic theft to get items that they would boost or sell to get those drugs. So it's a really devastating thing, and we got this pandemic we're dealing with, but we must also remember, combine that with the opioid addiction, and it's extremely, extremely devastating. So now let's look at some steps that can help us, and we're going to conclude by this. And a lot of people I know will look at the treatment programs that we've talked about, such as diversion or deflection, that we've talked about with the laws. and the one we have in Illinois that I provided you a copy of, um, from the point of using Narcan or Noxolone to arrest the effects of the drugs themselves. But the key thing that is going to help a person is what I said earlier, and that's uh, treatment to address the problem. One of the things that's probably hardest is that individuals are not able to do very well with short-term treatment or short-term residential treatment, but long-term involves stays that people can't afford or really are not willing to commit to, that might last a half a year or even a year. But individuals would need a structured, a highly, as it says, structured program or setting environment to be able to provide them with some help. Again, short-term residential is like slapping a Band-Aid on something. The length may be 30 days, but after that period is over, oftentimes individuals are attracted back to the same environment, the same people, might even listen to some of the same music that's a trigger to them, and they will find themselves uh, worse than they were at first. Remember, the idea is to take people from 12 o'clock on the clock, remember, down to 6 o'clock on the calendar, on the clock, where you're going in another direction, or put it another way, doing what we call 180 degrees turn in life. Some people make a mistake and say 360, but that's a full circle, and you end up back where you started. Excuse me. And then usually the second time is worse than the first. So individual counseling often, though, focus on reducing or stopping substance use, creating skills that will help the person and lead them to recovery. As it says here, group counseling is often used in addition to individual counseling to provide social reinforcement as participants work toward recovery. You also are affected, as I said earlier, by who you spend time with, your peers, and groups that you hang with. That's why one of the groups suggested here is Alcoholics Anonymous and other 12-step programs that provide peers to support you in ending the substance. And those individuals were former addicts and are able to give you steps towards freeing you of the bondage of the opioid addiction. So again, we already talked about methadone and bupropion or extended release Noxolone. They play a role in dealing with these. However, these things ease the symptoms of withdrawal, especially methadone, and quickens the transition to recovery. However, you have to stay on it a long time. And so it's important for you to understand the pattern of what Alcoholics Anonymous has discovered, called the 12-step program. You've probably heard of that before. And if you pay attention to each of the steps, it's important that you recognize that you have to first admit that you have lost control, that you don't have any control over your circumstances, over your life, and that it's become, as it says, unmanageable. That's the first step. People who are in denial can never be helped on a long-term basis because they think the problem is everybody else or someone else is always causing them. I heard Young man tell his parents, I told you we were talking to today, that when he gets around people, it's hard for him to say no. Well, that's because of the fact that he's powerless. And uh, no is a term that would not apply in a situation where he sees something that he relates to already, and that is other individuals who are getting high or offer him an opportunity to get high as well. 2, you come to believe that there is a power greater than you that could restore you to sanity. Now, I use God. People have different things that they use. This is not a statement about, as I use the term religion, which I don't like because I don't use religion. I use relationship with God as how I exist. But the fact of the matter is that there is a source, whatever you want to call it, karma or whatever, that is greater than you to help you to stay on that path. Of course, one of the best things is just never do it. I'm 71 and I've never done it. So I didn't have to deal with any of these issues, but I had a sibling that overdosed on cocaine. I've had other siblings that their lifestyle was drugs and intensive, lot of drinking and getting high. And finally they were killed or died as a result of that. Their life was shortened. 3, make a decision to turn over your will. In other words, you get out of the way and turn your life over to the care of God as you understand him. Whatever the relationship that you might have, you will want to. We believe that as my role as a pastor of a church, that we deal with spiritual as well as holistic aspects of helping people to point them in a direction that would better satisfy them in longevity and produce for them a quality of life. 4, make a searching and fearless inventory of yourselves. There's a passage in the Bible that says, let a man examine himself. Michael Jackson said, the man in the mirror. If you look in the mirror, there's a image of the person who is the one who needs to look at themselves, not point the finger. As I try to remind people, when you point the finger, you're pointing one at the person that you think is doing it, and you got 3 pointing at you if you freeze it and look at it. Okay. And some have even added that your thumb is up and you're pointing to God. So what you're doing is you're blaming anybody and everybody except the real culprit, yourself, for allowing it. Okay. 4, 5, admitting to God, to ourselves, and other the nature of our wrongs. Knowing that, yes, you're in a bad shape, you make bad decisions, and you need as much help as possible. 6, entirely ready to ask God or whoever to remove these defects of character. But then you got to be willing to put in the work itself. It's like a person who says they're going to go on a diet and ask, once they are told by whoever is helping them certain things that they have done in the past, they have to go and not do this. Says, I don't know if I can do this. Well, that's the problem right there. You got to make a commitment to remove these defects of character. 7, humbly ask him to remove your shortcomings. All of us have shortcomings, but the shortcomings of people who are drug addicts, alcoholics, can be devastating, not, as I said, only to them, but to their families and to everybody's well-being. Make a list of the persons you've harmed and become willing to make amends to every single one of them. Number 9, make direct amends to such people whenever possible, except when to do so would injure others. So you don't want to hurt others in the process. but you want to try to fix what you have damaged in the past. Don't take two wrongs, because the two wrongs don't make a right. Continue to take personal inventory over and over and see where you went wrong and admit it. Continuing self-examination or evaluation. And then 2 more points. Sort through prayer and meditation to improve your contact with God as you understand Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for you and the power to carry that out. In other words, God help me. You heard of the serenity prayer? If not, God help me to accept the things I cannot change. Finding yourself going in a direction where you recognize that you're not in control of your own destiny and that there's a force greater than you who can help you to overcome negativity, things that are bad that could destroy you and take away your quality of life. And then the last point, have a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. In other words, your eyes are opened, your mind is open, your heart is open, and follow these steps over and over. Repeat them to yourself to help individuals who are alcoholics, um, drug addicts, people who are addicted to drugs. And practice these principles in all your ways and everything that you do. So I guess what I could say as we end this lecture is that one of the most important things that people must remember is you have a part to do. It's nothing automatic. You can't flick a switch and be cured. It takes hard work. Hard work. I challenged myself. I was at 286 to get to 200. Well, I'm at 257, 256. I teeter around that, but my goal is to get to 200. And sometimes I fall back a little bit, but then I get back up and I do the things that I need to do and watch myself go down. I don't beat myself up when I don't succeed, but I do get back up and try to move in that direction. And that's the attitude that you have to have in terms of dealing with overcoming alcohol and drugs. Very, very, very important. Okay, well, that's it for this course. I hope that you have learned a lot about drugs and crime as I started out this course by telling you that there is a correlation between drugs and crime. That's why the title of this course is Drugs and Crime, because drugs and addiction to drugs lead to crime. And if we're going to adversely affect individuals who are repeat offenders or recidivists, we have to come to grips with getting to the heart of the matter. And we've talked about different approaches, from the war on drugs to in passing legislation, increasing sentences for individuals, to ultimately reaching the stage where law enforcement must become like a counselor to help individuals, to point them in the direction toward drug treatment, to help individuals to be able to succeed in overcoming those drugs. And so as you move forward in your career as a criminal justice professional, always remember that drug addicts are not bad people. They're people who made bad decisions, bad and poor choices. And those choices have changed them from who they really were intended to be to something that even they didn't And you know, sometimes it's as innocent as starting out with abusing painkillers. So keep that in mind. And so I'm going to adjourn, but I'm going to give you a phrase that you need to give me back to get your points. And it is the overall problem that we face in this world and in this country, and that's called drug addiction. So give me drug addiction as your phrase to get your points. That is the key phrase, drug addiction. Well, I'm going to say good night to you. A little shorter lecture tonight, but you have the material and information, and you have the wherewithal to reach out to me, and I will be happy to help you again, as I've tried ever since the beginning of this course to extend myself to explain things that you didn't understand, to help you remember that the rubrics are very important in the grading, to point out to you that I put comments in the grading rubric to tell you what you need to correct. And one of the biggest errors that many students make is not providing citations in the body, or just providing one. I don't like the fact that the modules are written to say at least one, because I don't think you can get into exemplary with just one. I think you need to be able to get into the habit of providing the source of your statements to readers who look at your written assignments or papers, as you will in the future be requested to do a project, and you're going to have to do the same for your bosses or employers. So in other words, enjoy your break. I hope to see some of you in 2 weeks. I will be teaching term 1 starting the 4th of October. As I said yesterday, let the 4th be with you. I will be teaching contemporary issues in criminal justice. That's a capstone course for students who are about to receive their associate's degree, and hopefully then will continue from there to their bachelor's. And then I also will be teaching Introduction to Corrections, which kind of coincides with drugs and crime as well. Some students haven't taken that, and so they're taking that as well. So I look forward to seeing you. I know a few students in my other classes that are going to be in that class already. So stay safe, continue to listen to the science, dismiss the conspiracy theories and the politics, and recognize the requirements of this institution to focus on getting your shots, wearing masks. And I'm not being political. You can take it however you want to, and I'm not going to stop doing it. I think my institution will support me fully in that. So take care of yourself. See you on the other side. If you need me in the future, you know how to reach me. I'll be here to help you. Again, good night.